Koei Tecmo's newest entry in the Atelier series is finally here on the Nintendo Switch. Thanks to them, I've been able to enjoy and play Atelier Sophie 2 The Alchemist and Mysterious Dream prior to its release. In today's video, I'm going to share some of my early thoughts and impressions on the game, as well as share some opinions on if it's worth picking up for your Nintendo Switch or not. It's JRPG time on the channel, so hang on, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and here's my thoughts for Atelier Sophie 2 for the Nintendo Switch. The Atelier series has really been prolific in the last few years. For Nintendo Switch owners, you're probably saying, wow, another Atelier game so soon. It's one of many Atelier games available for the platform. In fact, I believe this is the 14th game on the platform for the series. I may be off by one or so, and I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to correct me. And yes, some of them are not new games, some of them are DX ports. But regardless, there has been a lot. Don't let it fool you though. Just because there's so many releases, doesn't mean the series doesn't have quality. The series is becoming quite popular among RPG fans for its bright, colorful characters, charming stories, and its emphasis on item collecting and crafting versus traditional RPGs. With that said, for returning players and newcomers, I feel like Atelier Sophie 2 is a solid entry that holds up to what the series is about. With that all said, we gotta kick things off by talking about the story because, well, this is actually a sequel. First things first, this entry continues off from the first game that originally came out 7 years prior. Sophie has left her hometown with her friend Plachta, and along the way they get sucked into a dream world where they get separated. There, she meets an alternate version of Plachta, who allows her to set up shop, so to speak, and be able to synthesize items. Her main goal here is to try to meet up with her world's Plachta, while most likely seeing if she can make it back to her own world. That's pretty much the gist of things. It's not a complex story, but it works, because the big question for most is going to be, do I need to play the first game or any other games in the series? And the answer is you absolutely do not need to at all. If you need it, there's a story so far option on the main screen that will get you up to par if you need it, but otherwise, I've jumped in myself, as I've only played a couple other Atelier games in the series before, so I have no experience with the first Sophie game at all. At no point I felt like, man, I should have played the first one. In fact, from what I hear, most Atelier games work this way, where you can jump in at any point or start playing any game in the series. I really do like that. That aside, we're going to talk about some gameplay, and we're going to talk about battles first, because that was the first thing that kind of hit me. One of the things I love about this game is the fact that everything seems so seamless. You interact with an enemy, battles happen right then and there, and it's fast. Yes, it's a turn-based RPG, but unlike most turn-based RPGs, it's really fast and snappy. As you play, you'll get access to multi-link attacks, dual trigger skills, lots of abilities and strategies. The combat is pretty easy to understand, and there's plenty of tutorials that will teach you how to play as you encounter new ways to deal with enemies. The combat is pretty fun, and due to these new abilities and tactics, and the fact that the battles are so seamless and fast, they never feel tedious at all. Combat, though, is not the main aspect of the game. Those who are veterans of Atelier games, or at least aware of them, knows that combat always plays second fiddle to alchemy and item collecting and crafting. Everywhere, and I mean everywhere, there are places you can loot to obtain items for synthesizing. From stones to spider webs, to using tools to cut down wheat, fishing for prized fish, every material you collect is important as you need it to synthesize items. And we're not just talking about making things like potions or bombs. You will use materials to craft weapons and even key items to advance the story. You want to get into the habit of just collecting everything and everything possible as much as you can. When you go to synthesize items, you'll be presented with a grid that you have to match elements to increase the quality of your goods as well as your abilities. There's a bit more complexity to it, but the game will guide you as you unlock more functions. Because of how this grid comes into play, no two items are the same, so you'll definitely want to make most of the grid, as well as use the best quality items that you can obtain. You will gain access to new items to synthesize as you uncover new items in the field, as well as level up, though that's not the only way to gain access to new recipe ideas. One such way is through Cresting, which is a big aspect of the game to obtain items, money, and improve your reputation with the town. You'll want to make sure you complete quests as often as you can, so you can always have a huge access to a huge supply of goods. The quests themselves are never that hard, and always seem to guide you on where to go, as well as what to do. I also want to point out that manipulating weather is a huge aspect of this game. By synthesizing items to control the weather, you'll open new paths, but also change aspects of items, as well as affect battles too. You'll discover more and more about how everything revolves around this, and luckily the game will guide you through, but I really appreciate this little wrinkle to the gameplay. Graphics wise, the game runs pretty nice on the Switch. There's two graphics modes. Quality mode, which increases the graphics fidelity, and performance that aims to increase smooth performance. I'll be honest, I barely noticed a difference between the two. Yes, performance mode does increase the frame rate just a little bit, but I really didn't see much of a difference. I just personally left it on quality mode. Either way, the game seems to load fast, battles are seamless, and there were no major hiccups from what I saw so far with my time with the game. And while I primarily played in dock mode, I did try it in handheld mode, and the game seems to look really good on handheld mode. I had no issues there either. You'll be safe in knowing that in the end, the Switch version does a nice justice to the game. As far as the audio side of things, the Atelier series has been known for some really nice peaceful background tunes, and Sophie 2 keeps with that trend. The music is pretty calming, and I think it absolutely fits with the style of game. Voice-wise, there is no English voiceovers for this game. It's completely in Japanese with the English subtitles. There is no English voiceover option. And while that normally doesn't bother me at all, I kinda wish there was an English voiceover option because some of these names are really hard to pronounce. Oh, and I must say, they talk a lot. Like a lot in battles, in the overworld, everywhere. They talk to each other a lot. Every time they collect an item, they seem to talk. Almost to the point it's a bit too much. So be aware, if for some reason cute voices chattering a lot back and forth bothers you, this might not be the game for you. And that's what I've discovered so far about this game, in terms of what it's about. I have to say though, as my first Atelier game in a long time, I really do dig this game. The game itself is not really hard at all at normal, though there is difficulty options to increase the difficulty if you desire. But I really like the quest system. Just going to areas and collecting items and trying to synthesize the best items I can to raise my experience is just fun. And everything seems to kind of flow into each other. Even though there is a lot to do, it's easy to understand, and the tutorials along the way guide you in terms of what you need to do. It's easy to pick up and play, unlike some RPGs that just can be a little intimidating to new players. And if you're a veteran RPG player, well, you'll still have a good time with this game. Those who are willing to take time to synthesize the best items and maximize things are going to have an absolute blast with this game. It's got a lighthearted story, fast, fun, and seamless battling system, and of course its patented and deep alchemy systems make Sophie 2 a great entry for RPG fans looking for a solid game to play, at least judging from my experience so far with the game. If you're a Atelier fan, I'm sure you will be happy, and players looking for a fun RPG experience that's a little different from the standard RPG fare will be glad to know that this is a good entry to dive into. But that's my thoughts so far in the game. If you liked the video or found it useful, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It lets me know that you appreciate it. And of course, if you're not yet a subscriber, well, you should become one. I post new videos each and every week, and you definitely don't want to miss a single one. Patreon members, thank you for your continued support. If you like the channel and wish to additionally support it, make sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/GameCamiller. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.